Coming up on We Talk News this week, over 43,000 comments later, the public has spoken. Forget rescheduling. The majority of the people taking the time to comment to the DEA about moving cannabis to Schedule 3 want the plant descheduled. DC reporter Andrew Behringer, Thomas Howard from Illinois, and Virginia's Joe Parsons all analyze the results and answer the question, so what's next? And Cookies holds a grand opening in New Mexico, but public use, underage consumption, and alcohol all add up to violations that total over $300,000 in fines. And more mold violations in California cannabis pre-rolls and more recalls. But sales continue at the California State Fair in Sacramento, where some old friends of PCM gather to wave the cannabis flag with the Beard Brothers. And Dallas, Texas collects enough signatures to get decriminalization of cannabis on the next ballot, despite their governor's rejection of that city's right to do just that. All that and coast-to-coast cannabis news on We Talk News with Alaina Pinto. Next.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Weed Talk News, Pro Cannabis Media's weekly roundup of cannabis news from coast to coast. I'm Alaina Pinto. The 60-day public comment period to the DEA about the potential move of cannabis from Schedule 1 to 3 of the Controlled Substances Act is over. The results should not surprise anyone, since according to the latest Pew Research poll, over 70% of Americans want cannabis legalized. It also supports that a majority of Americans who took the time to make a public comment want the plant medicine completely descheduled. With an analysis of the public results, here's Andrew Behringer with our Washington, D.C. Cannabis Report.
I'm Andrew Behringer, and this is the D.C. Area Report for We Talk News. As you may or may not know, the Department of Justice recently proposed reclassifying cannabis from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 under the Controlled Substances Act, following a recommendation by the U.S. Health and Human Services Department. A recent 60-day public comment period saw an unprecedented response with nearly 43,000 submissions, which is the largest turnout ever for public submissions, surpassing the previous record of 38,000. Analysis shows that an overwhelming 91% of comments supported reforms, with 56% advocating for complete descheduling and 35% backing rescheduling to a less restrictive category. Only 8% favored maintaining cannabis under a Schedule 1 status. Now, other reports show that 69.3% of all the comments supported full federal decriminalization or legalization at some level, while 42.4% emphasized the need for reform to address racial justice and social equity issues. Now, if implemented, this rescheduling could provide significant tax relief to cannabis businesses and potentially open the avenues for research, medical use, and banking. Now, however, it's important to note that federal criminalization would still remain in place. Before publishing a final rule, the DEA and DOJ must decide whether to hold an administrative hearing. If such a hearing is deemed necessary, it could significantly extend the timeline for the rescheduling process, potentially pushing any decision well into the future. Even after a final rule is published, the process faces additional hurdles. There will be a 30-day period during which opponents can file lawsuits to challenge the rescheduling decision. This opens the door for potential legal battles that could further delay implementation. Adding to the uncertainty is the looming 2024 presidential election. The outcome of this election could potentially impact the rescheduling process, as a new administration might have a different viewpoint about cannabis policy. Tune in next week for further updates on this and more. I'm Andrew Behringer reporting for We Talk News.
One more note on the potential for rescheduling cannabis is how the DEA will weigh the importance of public comments versus comments from other federal agencies like the National Transportation and Safety Board, whose comments were released this past week. Concern over the ability to continue to test federal employees for THC was their main focus when it comes to truck drivers or airline pilots. Certainly an important cause for public safety, but because THC stays in the human system for 30 days, there will be plenty of false positives, especially with the loophole in the 2018 Farm Bill. That loophole has seen the explosion of untested and unregulated Delta 8 products that are available in many gas stations and convenience stores in licensed and unlicensed stores. But no better example of that than what's going on in Texas. You've got a huge market of Delta 8 and Delta 9 derived products, and now one of the largest cities in the Lone Star State, Dallas, wants to decriminalize cannabis, something the governor and attorney general have already tried to stop. Here's Lisa Williams from the Toke Agency with our Texas Cannabis Report for the week.
I'm Lisa Williams, founder of the Toke Agency with the Texas Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. We've got some big news coming from Dallas and San Marcos that's sure to make waves across the state of Texas. First up, let's tip our hats to Dallas. The city known for its larger-than-life personality is making strides towards cannabis reform. In a major development, Dallas officials have approved the signatures for cannabis decriminalization petition, pushing it one step closer to becoming a reality. This decision marks a pivotal moment in the city's journey towards more sensible cannabis laws. Let's get the lowdown. The petition, which garnered strong support from local advocates and residents alike, aims to decriminalize low-level cannabis offenses within the city of Dallas. By approving the signatures, city officials have validated the community's call for change and have set the stage for potential decriminalization measures to be implemented. If this initiative goes through, it will mean individuals caught with small amounts of cannabis won't face the heavy hands of the law. Instead, these offenses will be treated as low priority, freeing up law enforcement to focus on more serious issues. Imagine getting busted for a tiny bit of herb and not having to worry about turning your life upside down. Sounds like a step in the right direction to me. By shifting the focus away from minor possession charges, Dallas can allocate resources more efficiently, potentially improving public safety and community relations. Moreover, it reflects a growing trend across Texas and the nation where more and more cities are reevaluating their stance on cannabis. Now let's mosey on over to San Marcos, where there's more good news on the cannabis front. A Texas judge has upheld a local marijuana decriminalization law, rejecting a lawsuit from the GOP Attorney General against the city. This ruling is a major victory for cannabis reform advocates and sets a strong precedent for other Texas cities looking to decriminalize marijuana. The judge's decision underscores the legality and validity of local efforts to reform cannabis laws. Despite opposition from higher political offices, San Marcos residents voted to decriminalize marijuana, and this ruling respects their decision. The decision means that San Marcos will continue to treat low-level cannabis offenses as low priority, aligning with the city's progressive stance on cannabis. So, if you're a champion for more sensible drug policies, these developments in Dallas and San Marcos are a cause for celebration. It's like finding out the rodeo's coming to town. Exciting and a sign of good times ahead. I'm Lisa Williams, founder of the Toke Agency, with the Texas Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News.
The cannabis brand Cookies is one of the most well-known on the celebrity circuit of strains. It is also getting a bad reputation for hosting grand openings of dispensaries that get a little wild. It happened in Maryland in May of last year in Baltimore. And that incident cost $81,000 in fines and shut down that store for over 30 days. Now in New Mexico, another grand opening last year in November resulted in some more serious fines. The fines imposed and agreed upon this week included violations for public consumption, underage consumption of cannabis, underage alcohol consumption, and just plain disruptions to the peace in Albuquerque. Blue Whale Enterprises is the licensee holder for the Cookies brand in New Mexico, and they agreed to pay a fine of $350,000 for the 5 violations over the next few months in lieu of having their store shut down. This is something that Ohio wants to avoid now that they are on the verge of opening in that state. Regulators and legislators there are still trying to figure out how to transition from a medical-only state to legal adult use in that state. Our Ohio report comes from Harry Bernstein and is sponsored by Yellow Labs.
In Loveland, Ohio, Emily and Mark seek to deepen their bond through intimacy. They turn to Yellow Labs Rose Oil Massage Cream with delivery technology, promising enhanced pleasure and connection. The cream ignites increased sensitivity and arousal as they apply it, kindling a shared passion. Excited by its effects, they find joy in shared closeness and moments of unity.
This is Harry Bernstein with Verde Compliance Partners in the Ohio Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Recently, Ohio Republicans have accelerated their push to regulate adult-use hemp products. Representative Sarah Carruthers introduced a bill into the Ohio House that requires the Ohio Director of Agriculture to recommend guidelines for adult-use hemp products. Although most agree that these products should be regulated, there is concern that this bill could lead to a ban on these legal products. In a related note, the Senate is already considering a bill that would restrict the sale of adult-use hemp products to those over 21, require ID checks, and place these products behind counters. These legislative moves aim to tighten control over adult-use hemp, while Ohioans await adult-use marijuana sales. On the positive side, Ohio's adult-use cannabis market is starting to take shape. The Division of Cannabis Control has issued dual-use certificates to 4 cultivators and 6 processors, enabling them to supply the adult-use market, and it also has begun its final inspections of dispensaries. This is the last step required to obtain a dual-use license. This step is crucial before the adult market can open. Dispensaries need to update their point-of-sale systems, enhance security, and ensure an adequate supply for both medical and adult-use customers. While no dispensaries have received certificates yet, the first one could be issued any day. That's the Ohio Cannabis Report for this week. I'm Harry Bernstein with Verde Compliance Partners reporting for Weed Talk News.
The Ohio Cannabis Report is supported by Yellow Labs and Better Ways to THC.com. Search for Yellow Labs near me and find one of 40 dispensaries in Ohio carrying these amazing mists and creams.
I'm Amy Carter from Michigan Weedsters, reporting this week from Toronto, Canada, with this week's Weed Talk News. The Kalamazoo County Board of Commissioners voted last week to make changes to its employee drug testing policy. The board voted unanimously to make changes to the policy, including new language about legal drugs at the July 16th meeting. Under the former drug-free workplace policy, employees testing positive for drugs or alcohol were subject to disciplinary action, up to and including discharge for the first offense, or other remedial measures based on individual circumstances. Under the new policy, the county has discretion in whether an employee is disciplined for testing positive for legal drugs or alcohol. In my opinion, it's a step in the right direction, and more counties need to follow suit. Michigan Weedsters Association had a big announcement this week. MWA has rolled out a membership program to unite Michiganders to help protect the cannabis laws that the people of the state put into place. And I'd like to break it down on Michigan's unique cannabis laws. There are only 7 states in the United States that have all 3 options to turn a bill into a law. Those 7 states are Arizona, California, Colorado, Michigan, Missouri, North Dakota, and Oregon. In Michigan, we have only had 14 voter-initiated laws make it to the ballot since 1963. Out of those 14, we've had 8 actually pass. 2 of those are our cannabis laws. We do not want to lose freedoms we've earned because of corporate greed or uneducated lawmakers. Michigan Weedsters is a lobbying group for the people, by the people. You can go to MWA.one and sign up to be a member for only $4.20 a year. You can also find information at MichiganWeedsters.com. I'm going to go enjoy this beautiful country, and I will see you guys next week. I am Amy Carter from Michigan Weedsters with this week's Weed Talk News.
That'll do it for the A block or first section of Weed Talk News for this week. A reminder that the entire show is already available on the homepage of procannabismedia.com. When we come back, though, the story about another recall of products in the California market and more coast-to-coast state reports right after this.
It's a whole new world of weed out there, isn't it? Everyone is learning new ways to titrate, ingest, consume, imbibe, and engage with this plant medicine we call cannabis. Now, let me tell you my cannabis story. You know, I've had 4 major surgeries in the past 23 years and suffer from osteoarthritis with a variety of metal parts in my body and one on deck. Now, thanks to those chronic pain issues, I've been a medical patient in Massachusetts for almost 10 years now. I remember my first trip to a dispensary just outside of Boston, and I told the bud tender I didn't want to smoke it anymore. So I tried edibles, then tinctures, then vaping, and now if I'm going to smoke, I only use the Weedgets filtration system. What? The Weedgets.com, Weedgets, that's weed, W-E-E-D, G-E-T-S.com, is where you'll find the planet's coolest product that cools the smoke from everyone's favorite flower. The guy that started this was a pretty good medical device manufacturer, and he created this maze pipe that cools the smoking process from 1300 degrees Fahrenheit upon inflammation down to just 90 degrees when it reaches your mouth. That's right, 1300 down to 90. That's why this maze pipe is amazing. Now, add in the code of PCMTV and you get 15% off. So just go to Weedgets.com and check out the best way to enjoy a cooler smoke with less coughing and hacking and more peace of mind.